Warning: the following contains praise for Series 8 and 9 of Doctor Who. Contrary to popular belief, they're not as bad as fans make them out. Enjoy.
The 12th Doctor was played by Peter Capaldi from 2014 to 2017, lasting from Series 8, Series 9 and Series 10. If we count the break that was taken in 2016, his era lasted for 4 years. In terms of characterisation, this incarnation was, most certainly, for lack of a better term, the Doctor. Similar to the 1st and 6th Doctor, this character was the Doctor on full display, with his alien personality, but keeping his emotions hidden when trying to save the day. The 12th Doctor rarely saw himself as the dashing hero who saves the day. He's not wanting the attention or wanting glory for his actions, he's simply doing it because it's right. I love this personification of the Doctor, and I further enjoyed the different aspects of the character that were explored throughout his 3 seasons. 8 had him question whether or not the Doctor is a good man. In episodes like Into the Dalek and The Caretaker, he showed a dislike of soldiers and was even called a good Dalek in the former episode. Listen touched upon his own fears. Kill the Moon, he left Clara to solve the issue, believing the Earth wasn't his planet and humanity should decide their future. However, does this make him a good man when it fractured his relationship with Clara? Now this all came to a culmination in the Series 8 finale, declaring he's not a good man. He's an idiot with a box and a screwdriver, and friends like Clara and Danny Pink who love each other as a promise. A bit cliched, but the whole love conquers all thing, I personally quite liked it. Series 9 saw the dangers of becoming too attached to companions. For example, with Clara, he would break his own rules and threaten to change history in episodes like Before the Flood, and would even damage time itself in Hellbent, a rather clever episode, might I add. Series 10 saw the introduction of Bill and Nardole, and with Bill, a teacher-pupil dynamic was introduced. Bill had rarely been beyond her university, and seeing things such as death, she saw the dangers of time travel, but she was able to learn the fun behind it all as well. The most notable inclusion of the Capaldi era was the reintroduction of the Master in the form of Missy, played by Michelle Gomez, and their relationship focused on the fact that these two were former friends with each other, and the Doctor aiming to reform her in a sense which was touched upon throughout Series 10. Now, with all that aside, here are the best stories from the Capaldi era. Number 5. Mummy on the Orient Express. When you have a title like that, you'd expect this story to deliver on what it says, and boy does this episode deliver. The Doctor and Clara decide to take a final trip in the TARDIS on the Orient Express. In space! Sorry, I couldn't resist doing that. However, their final trip takes an unexpected turn when they discover there's a supernatural passenger on board. This episode is racked with horror and tension as there's a ticking clock throughout. Once the clock starts ticking, only one character at a time can see the mummy coming towards them, with only 66 seconds worth of notice before they die. The premise forms a brilliant mystery. Why are the people dying? Why are these specific people being chosen? Why can only one person at a time see what's happening? It's a fun puzzle, all in the art of Agatha Christie. I mean, the episode is named after the famous book. Furthermore, this episode shows whether it's right for the Doctor to sacrifice lives for the greater good. For example, when characters see the mummy, he asks them to describe it in their final moments, knowing that they're about to die, but it's all for the greater good of defeating the real enemy. The episode also showed the final adventure, or it would have been, between the Doctor and Clara, but he lied to her, knowing that there was danger on the train when she thought this would be a relaxing journey in space. And the end scene with the two on the beach turns things around for them. The Doctor asks her, "Do you want me to think of me as heartless, and would it make it easier if we got along that way?" It's a great scene between Capaldi and Coleman, and they knock it out of the park. I do have criticism, it's that the ending is slightly rushed from a story standpoint, and that lets it down a little. On a final note, if you do extend this story to say 100 minutes and replace 12 and Clara with the Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane, then this episode would fit in perfectly in the Philip Hinchcliffe era of Doctor Who. A horror story but with a scientific twist on it. Heck, Capaldi even imitates the Fourth Doctor at one point. However, with a great premise, brilliant visuals and scares, and an interesting development in the Doctor and Clara's relationship, Mummy on the Orient Express is a fresh, confident episode in 12's era. Number 4. Flatline. Now, Doctor Who has a tendency to take everyday products of our world and turn them scary. For example, shop window dummies, scarecrows, statues, shadows, and in Flatline's case, it's the graffiti on the wall. While on paper that doesn't sound that scary, the execution of it all more than pays off. Clara becomes separated from the Doctor, who is trapped in a shrunken TARDIS, and discovers a new menace from another dimension that is seeking to become three-dimensional. The Boneless are an excellent creation. They're hidden in plain sight on the walls, but they're able to reduce three-dimensional objects and life forms to two-dimensional. And while the monster is definitely a fresh new addition, you could argue that this is also a Dr. Light episode in a literal sense. The Doctor here is stuck in the TARDIS and Clara has to take on his role, and even the Doctor approves of her Doctor-like moments. We see her investigating, lying, accepting that people die so the world can be saved, and even attempting an inspirational speech. And while previous episodes like Kill the Moon showed she wasn't all that ready to take on this role, this episode proves that she can rival the Doctor. And while many fans have argued that that's too much and it became Clara Who, from what I've heard, for me that's the point of Clara's character. We've seen companions be alongside the Doctor as a friend, and while Clara is that, her character arc is all about her, in a sense, becoming him, with this episode being a prime example. However, the Doctor still gets time to shine in this episode. Capaldi has a great screen presence and is able to make every scene count despite being stuck in the TARDIS, and even gets a great scene at the end telling the Boneless he's the man who stops the monsters and banishing them from this dimension. Furthermore, we get the introduction of Rigsy, a graffiti artist who's even willing to sacrifice himself to stop the Boneless, and while he realises he doesn't need to, it says so much about his character. He may be an artist sentenced to community service, but he'll still try and do the right thing, even if he acts before he thinks. With great new monsters, a new take on the Doctor-companion relationship, and superb direction, Flatline is out of this dimension. Number 3. Listen. Are we ever truly alone? Is there something that lurks unseen beside us all? Why do we speak when we know we're alone? Kinda like what I'm doing now. Will this question ever be answered? Now, this is the section where I describe the plot of the episode, but in all honesty, I just did. Listen is an episode that touches upon fear, dreams, and hiding both from the monsters, and trying to find a creature with the perfect hiding abilities. This episode also aims to analyse fear and what it can do for us. For example, the Doctor describes it as a superpower. It can give us adrenaline and inspire us to do better, and can even make us invincible. We're scared that the worst can happen in any situation, but we still go through with it. Kind of thanks to fear, we're inspired to overcome it. While Series 8 came under criticism for the romance between Clara and Danny Pink, this episode shows the fear behind the romance, which is a good name for a Doctor Who episode. I should write that down. For example, Clara brings up Danny being a soldier as a joke on their date, and they upset each other. And while some see that as too stupid or too unlikable for the characters, for me that's all down to fear. It shows what fear can do to us, because we try and impress people, but we're always scared to. It's fear. Furthermore, we see Danny as a young boy who's also scared by the unseen monster in his room, and it adds to his character as we see Clara giving him a toy soldier to guard him at night. And while Danny points out that it doesn't have a gun, he realises not every soldier needs to carry a weapon, and this can be interpreted as inspiring Danny to become a soldier, not to kill people, but also to protect people from being scared, and it really adds to his character in my opinion. Furthermore, we see how everlasting fear is, as this creature is even got a presence at the end of the universe, knocking on the walls of a spacecraft. Even at the end, we will never conquer fear, and that's a great metaphor in my opinion. However, the ending, seeing the Doctor as a scared young child and Clara comforting him, shows that fear is a companion, it will never go away, which also echoed the Doctor's earlier words to Danny Pink. And with superb direction, ambiguous but clever writing, and brilliant performances, Listen is definitely a classic in my eyes. Number 2. Heaven Sent. This episode is unique in its premise and execution, as this episode features no prominent companion or supporting cast, but focuses on only the Doctor inside a mind palace. This episode was indeed a risk to pull off, and in my view, it more than succeeded. After the death of Clara, the Doctor is now trapped in the mind palace, being stalked by a mysterious creature that only pauses when he gives up his deepest secrets. What does the creature want, and will the Doctor escape and find his way home, even if it takes billions of years? The stakes feel so personal, but epic at the same time. The Doctor is grieving after the loss of his friend, but is also facing relentless tests in a reality that doesn't make any sense. The Doctor is at his most angry here, which would later pass on into the finale of the series, Hellbent, and is facing the Veil, an enemy that's definitely not as straightforward to defeat like many of the Doctor's other enemies. Furthermore, thanks to superb direction from Rachel Tilali, the repetitive nature of the episode is superbly pulled off, as you feel the passage of time with the Doctor being constantly killed and reborn again, further reinforced by the skulls at the bottom of the water. And while the Veil is a creepy foe, for me the real enemy is the Doctor breaking down the thick diamond wall for billions of years. You feel the determination through Capaldi's superb performance and Murray Gold's excellent music, and when he finally does break down the wall, you feel so happy for the Doctor that he's overcome this surreal reality. Heaven Sent has everything I love about Doctor Who: superb acting, horror, excellent character writing, surrealness, and seeing the Doctor at his most angry at the people who placed him here. Heaven Sent will definitely be remembered as a gem in the 12th Doctor's era. Number 1. World Enough and Time and the Doctor Falls. Series finales don't get much better than this, and while I've said this about a lot of stories for the past 11 videos, and I really need a wider range of vocabulary, the Series 10 finale encompasses everything I love about Doctor Who. The Doctor, Bill, and Nardole and Missy discover a huge spaceship orbiting a black hole, with both ends of the ship running at different time zones. Bill ends up at the faster time after becoming injured, ending up at hospital under the care of the eccentric Mr. Razor. The Doctor discovers that the hospital is a breeding ground for the genesis of the Cybermen, and an earlier incarnation of the Master has just met Missy. Now, you may dismiss this episode as pure fan service, and it kind of is. For example, we have Mondasian Cybermen, two Masters in the same story, etc. This two-parter doesn't remember to forget that at its core is about a man doing what he does because it's right. The Doctor's speech about kindness to the two Masters is brilliant and sums up the 12th Doctor's character entirely. He's not after attention or wanting to be remembered. He does it because it's kindness, and love conquers all, and it's what has got him to live this long, both as a person and I'd argue as a fictional character on a TV show. However, the other noteworthy elements get time to shine, such as the Cybermen, and in my opinion this is the best story to feature them in the new series, as it shows the true horror of cyber conversion. The scene where Bill walks around the hospital and finds patients pressing a button continuously to say they're in pain, and they're just being ignored, and the volume is turned down so they can't be heard, and how much they long for death is brilliant. It's shocking, but it's superbly done, and I think it's all down to Pearl Mackie's reactions when seeing them, and it reminds us of what the Cybermen used to be and how much of a possibility they are. Furthermore, the episode even gives Missy a great conflict, as she has to choose between siding with herself, trust me, it works, played by John Sim in an excellent return, only spoiled by damn publicity, or siding with the Doctor. And while Missy wants to stand with the Doctor, remembering him as an old friend, the Master would rather kill himself, trust me it makes sense when you watch the episode, than stand with a man he considers his enemy. Both Sim and Gomez are brilliant to watch, and they work off each other excellently. Nardole even ends his story by doing the right thing. When he was introduced, he wasn't exactly popular. I can even remember the outrageous fan reaction when they announced his return in Series 10. I mean, whatever happened to wait and see. But him helping the evacuation of civilians in this story to escape the Cybermen feels right, as he was influenced by the Doctor to do the right thing, but also throughout Series 10, he was kind of a guardian, you could say, to the Doctor, reminding him of his responsibilities to guard the vault. But now that Nardole continues to be responsible by doing the right thing like the Doctor would, and I think that's a great end for his character. And I can't praise this two-parter enough. It has depth, emotion, superb direction, the horror of cyber conversion, excellent well-rounded characters, and that's why World Enough and Time and The Doctor Falls is my favourite story from the 12th Doctor's era. Now before I sign off here, I just want to point out that I've completed all the Doctors now. Only got Doctor 13 to go, but obviously she's not appeared yet as of this video. And I started this series 8 months ago back in September, and I'm now finished. I'd like to thank everyone who has stuck around for this long, and I really hope you've enjoyed my top 5 lists on all 12 Doctors. You faithful viewers clicking on my videos and such nice feedback motivated me to reach the end, and while the moment has been prepared for, this is by no means the end of my channel. It's only the beginning, and I will continue to make more videos thanks to the conclusion of what I consider my flagship series, you could say. So with all that, be sure to like and subscribe, let me know what your favourite stories from the 12th Doctor are, and I'll see you in the future for more content. Farewell.